So on today for TFC Reviews, we're taking a quick look at the stylish and sophisticated Volvo XC60. From those sharp LED headlights and the signature Thor's hammer design to the clean sculpted lines, the Volvo XC60 makes a bold impression on the road. Under the hood, you'll find both a turbocharged engine with a mild hybrid or a plug-in hybrid options for added efficiency. This premium midsize SUV blends Scandinavian design with cutting-edge technology and safety features. In the back, those sleek taillights and smart storage space makes this SUV as practical as it is elegant. And of course, Volvo's legendary safety systems come standard. Stepping around to the front, I really do like how this one's finished in this nice dark gray blue metallic, also known as denim blue, from Volvo, and it truly does lend to its timeless design. Now let's dive into to see what makes this Volvo XC60 stand out from the crowd. Immediately stepping into the Volvo XC60, you will find that the materials are just a little bit nicer than what you're going to find in your run-of-the-mill SUV. From those super plush and comfortable seats to the materials on the dash and on the steering wheel, you are getting something that's going to be a little bit nicer than you would find in your mass market standard SUV, which is why the Volvo does compete in a little bit more of that near luxury class. Looking around back, those seats are finished in this nice faux synthetic leather. And then we also have an awesome panoramic sunroof. So I'm excited to get into this. Let's go ahead and get started. So on today for TFC Reviews, we have a Volvo XC60. And I have not driven a Volvo in so many years. Funny story, I think the last Volvo I have actually driven was maybe 10 plus years ago when I first moved out here to Connecticut. It was actually a rental, and overall I've always actually liked Volvos. My very first car was actually a Volvo 740 from the 80s. Totally a tank, crashed it, survived it. Loved that car, but one thing was that it was so slow. I think it had like 114 horsepower. Funny number to remember after all these years, but this Volvo is a lot different than that Volvo I had back in high school, and so far I do like it. There are some things that right off the bat, I won't say I don't like, but I do want to go ahead and spend some more time with it to get a full opinion about it. I will overlay a video real quick just on complexity. It took me over 2 minutes, which doesn't seem that long in the grand scheme of things, but just to figure out how to change the radio, because as you see right here, you have this beautiful center screen, but there aren't a lot of physical buttons, almost as many as we had in that Ford Edge. And you know my opinion on having physical buttons, it just makes things so much easier. And this is what it looks like when you first get in, and I don't know, especially in a rental, if there's music playing or something, or you want to just turn on the radio, that should be one of the first things I think that pops up when you first get into the car to be able to, first mess with. So anyway, it's going to be a very quick one. I'm running a little bit late, so we'll get right into it. So starting up our Volvo XC60, it's actually down here, so this is actually kind of cool, a little bit unique. It took 2 seconds to actually find that, but it starts up nice and easy. And no drama, no fuss. This is a mild hybrid, so you're getting a little bit of fuel savings with that mild hybrid system, but it's not definitely gonna be like a plug-in hybrid where you can drive only on electric. So we'll see how that performs on the road. If it's pretty seamless, like in the Toyota Camry we did, which was just flawless. I think everyone, it's a no-brainer. That is like the deal of the decade. Go buy a hybrid Toyota Camry and keep your financial fitness in shape, in check, and you'll be set. So, but talking Volvos today, and yeah, like I'm still trying to understand what Volvo is. And like right now, Volvo has been on a roller coaster of a journey ever since the 90s into the 2000s, they were owned by Ford for a little bit. And then during the 2008 recession, Ford ended up selling them off to, it's still a little early, but Geely out of China. And getting into that, I think with the news that was recently announced with tariffs, vehicles like this are going to have a very hard time if those tariffs stick and become lasting, because make every single part and piece on this vehicle more expensive in a very, very competitive landscape. And while it does drive nice, I can't have any complaints really, except for the 2 minutes it took me to figure out how to turn on the radio so far. The center screen, it's a little odd. And one really big thing I'll get to at the end, which I think it's just like what happens, like, you know, as tech changes, and it's just something to note, which is just annoying, that we'll save that one for the end. But yeah, like, it's a very competitive landscape, and they haven't you know, changed this very much since it was introduced back in 2018, I believe, and now we're in 2025. So what is that, 7 years? This is a 7-year-old design now at this point. And well, it looks fine, it's nice, it's a little bit you know, there's things that can always be, like, you know, improved. I think it's very funny, like, I think with Volvos too, they don't change them very often. Their XC90, their first version of that, I think that model lasted as long as, like, the 4Runners do. Like, not longevity on the road, but just design and refreshes and coming out with new, you know, models to replace the old. And so, which can be a good thing at the end of the day. You know, if it's good design, you don't need to change it. You know, that Ford Edge, you know, it was okay design. You know, they didn't change that one basically for almost 10 years. But in a very competitive landscape, people do kind of want that new flashy thing, and it becomes harder and harder for, you know, if it's tried and true design, to really stand out and also kind of differentiate yourself and keep up and be competitive in the marketplace. One tiny little thing I did notice, though, is, like, even like this bezel, like this, like, actually kind of bothers me, is that when you're in the driver's spot, you can kind of see it actually cuts off some of the screen. So that is bad. That's actually kind of bad design there. I don't know why they did that. If you move over, of course, you can see, like, you know, the LTE, it's like right there, but that's one little tiny thing that I think they could slim down this bezel a little bit. Bevel, early again. And then even kind of modernize that a little bit more, but also you don't want to, like, if you're sitting back, it cuts off your screen. And in the world of whose screen's bigger, why would you want to cut off any of yours? So anyway, like I said, I gotta make this video pretty quick. I'm running a little bit late today. So with that, you do get, this is a 2-row. They're calling it a mid-size SUV. That's a little bit of a stretch. I think it feels a lot more large, compact, you know, much more like, I would never consider like an X3 or from BMW, or a Mercedes X, or a Mercedes even a GLC. I wouldn't consider that mid-size either. Mid-size would be like a GLE or BMW X5, and this is definitely not that same size. It's much more closer to what you get like in a X3 BMW, or a maybe like an Audi Q5, the Mercedes GLC, that smaller Genesis. And so with that, I think it's more like on that, you know, larger luxury, near luxury compact size. So, but what you do get, even in their synthetic, you know, leather, it does a very good job of looking like real leather. It feels nice enough. You do get this cute little, like, you know, Swedish flag there, to pretend that this thing still is made in Sweden. But one really cool, like, standard feature you do get at an almost $50,000 price point is a giant panoramic roof, which works very nice. Nice little slider, Mercedes style. Goes all the way back, and I do enjoy these. They really do open up the cabin a lot and make it really nice and airy, especially when you are in an all black interior. It can be a little dark. And so later on today, when we do like our full review, we'll go ahead and check out that back seat and definitely get into more of like how this vehicle performed out on the road and my overall just opinions and thoughts on it. So one cool thing I did mention, it's actually funny because like these are kind of rare, having like a portrait screen. So I think the layout it actually works better from a safety standpoint. I mentioned this in that Ford Edge, that you don't have to, so say if this was turned, so then you would be out here. That's more reaching, more hands off the, your steering wheel, more eyes off the road. So having it all focused here keeps your eyes closer to the front and center, and then in theory safer. On the steering wheel, I'm still trying to figure out the controls. They don't seem to be that configurable. So like, you hit this, and then I think it's just a one function thing. So what it will do, it'll turn on your Google Maps, which is kind of cool. So you can turn that on, and then it brings up a map display here for your navigation there in the screen. And then there's a lot of like little things you got to click through. Fun. And then what else? But these I think are just your audio controls. The voice to speak for directions earlier was pretty good. And then here I'm guessing it's your cruise control and like your lane keep or your distance, your gap adjust. Lots of little buttons here on your stalks, which I thought was interesting. So, and also kind of a little bit cheap, I think, as like Volvo has been acquired, reacquired, and changed over hands over time. Well, just put everything on the stock instead of like having like separate buttons and stuff there for your light controls. Nice little design touch though too is that here these are designed and actually designed and look really nice for your vent controls. They have a nice little switch here to turn on and off, and it has like a nice little click in it, which is nice. What's not nice is that your climate controls are all here on the screen, and it is a little cold today, so go ahead and put it at 66. So Volvo's supposed to be all known for safety. I get cost cutting with doing everything into a screen. I don't get it. I actually don't like it. But again, it's having to go through into a menu to then do a control versus having like a nice physical button that you can easily just engage with while you're driving versus having something that you have to like go into like sub menus for. I don't think so. I think buttons will always be my preference for like primary controls, climate control, audio controls, things that you have to like engage with all the time when you're driving. But I think I'm losing the battle on that one. So more and more manufacturers are going to this. So there's an ambulance going by. We'll wait. Okay, that was annoying. Anyway, so ambulance went by, and yeah, like I said, I'm running a little bit late today, so I do need to make this really quick, and we'll give a much more extensive review later. One other thing I really do notice too, and I'll get to that one other point I was going to talk about where I was like, I'm annoyed, but when you do get into like these near luxury vehicles, there is a sense that they're built a little bit better. So you get that feeling here in the steering wheel, much like we got like in that Mazda CX-90, which I will always like be a fan for. However, again, as I mentioned, with these new tariffs coming through, we just don't know what's going to happen, because with a 25% tariff on all foreign non-US made vehicles right off the bat, that is a big price increase, and I just am not very optimistic that a lot of these manufacturers, your Hyundais will be, they're just so big on volume, but they're going to make them a little bit less cost competitive, in an already very cost expensive landscape. And it's going to push up the prices of your Mazdas, your Toyotas, your Hondas, and your Volvos. But like, these are already kind of at a near luxury kind of categorization, so it might be okay for them. But there's not a lot, differentiate yourself. You get this nice kind of clean, Swedish design, which is nice. But again, it hasn't been redesigned in 7 years now. That might be a deal breaker to some people. Also, reliability on these has been so with that, you got a couple dings going for you. But overall, like, I think that when you just step in, though, there is a sense of that this is a little bit nicer than you would say, like, in a Ford Edge, or definitely nicer than that Jeep Grand Cherokee. You're getting, like, real nice kind of soft touch materials. Granted, but even like an XC90, which is like the larger version, of this, then that kind of competes price-wise more with that Jeep Grand Cherokee 4xe. Price-wise, they're not, apples to apples, the same kind of vehicle, but that would be a better, just fit and finish and material choices, a better choice. That thing was so cheap, that Jeep Grand Cherokee. I have like nightmares still about it. But yeah, so far so good. Need to get on the road, so we'll give it definitely a larger, more extensive review later. And so forgot to overlay that one thing. I do apologize. So that one thing that I'm really annoyed about is that, yes, I don't have the latest iPhone. I still have a Lightning connection. So this, the old school, at least I don't have the old 30 pin, so I'm not that old. I'm not that, my tech's not that old. But the only way to connect Apple CarPlay in here is through that. If you don't know what that is a USB-C connector, not the connection that has been around for ages. So why do we have to always change things? Like, I get not having 1,000 cords around, but this kind of creates having 1,000 cords around, because until you get rid of your older tech in the bridge over to the newer tech. So maybe it's a good thing that they actually haven't changed this, because maybe I can actually respect them a little bit more. Come to think about it, it's like they're not having to make you reinvent, repurchase, rebuy a bunch of stuff that's just not compatible with the old stuff anymore, except for here, which I'm annoyed about. But it's a little frustrating, because yes, I know the standard, and there's been laws, that's why Apple had to eventually go to the USB-C connector, because of the EU law that was passed down. I get the whole environmental impact, maybe. I think that's still just kind of a scapegoat to like save on cost, and they say it's for the environment, but they really care about the environment, they'd be doing 1,000 different other things instead. And yeah, so not going to be able to use my Apple CarPlay because I don't have the right connector, and I have the older phone. So I do have a USB-C to USB-C for my iPad. I was going to try to connect my iPad, but that doesn't have CarPlay. So yeah, so we'll be using these Google Maps, see how that goes. It is kind of cool. It's up there in the dash, so we'll see how that all works. I'm sure it's going to work great. But yeah, wanted to point that out. That was kind of a really big annoyance thing. That's actually running a little bit late, so I was digging around looking for cords this morning that would actually be compatible with that. So with that, thank you again for watching. I really do appreciate it. And if you haven't subscribed, please do subscribe. I triple appreciate it. And leave a comment. Let me know what you think. Do you think that Volvo is going to be in big trouble with these tariffs coming in? Do you think we're all in big trouble with these tariffs coming in? And we'll leave it to the comments to sort all that out. And we'll see you in the next one.